We'll switch gears a little bit to our topic tonight, a very important one, as we said, in election season. Every election season, it seems these days, immigration is certainly a big deal.
You know, we got Brett Ponce. He's a great friend of mine. I've known Brett for years. He's been practicing law here for over 20 years. He's been doing immigration law for 16, does it all over the country. He knows more about immigration law than any lawyer that I know in town. Okay. And he can set the record straight on what's real and what's not real in terms of immigration.
Yes.
We see a lot of stuff on the internet these days about different things, and I've asked Brett specifically about some of them, and he'd be like, no, that's just simply not true.
Wow.
And the difficulties that immigrants in our country have.
Yes.
So it's a great topic.
Yes, well, again, Brett, welcome. You're certainly no stranger to the show, but as always, so glad to have you here. If you will, just greet our audience. I didn't know that you did work across the country, so if you will, tell the audience a little bit more about your work and your practice.
Well, there are no immigration courts in the state of Alabama, so one has to work at least across the southeast. The nearest 3 courts are Memphis, Tennessee, New Orleans, Louisiana, and the one that is the most geographically close, of course, would be Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. And if someone happens to be in detention, which a lot of times some of our immigrant neighbors will be detained, and they will have to fight their case from a detention facility, and the nearest of those would be either in Georgia or in Louisiana, which the majority of people that are detained in Alabama are shifted to Louisiana.
Gotcha.
So the primary focus of my practice is what they would call removal defense. Okay. So if someone is placed in proceedings in the immigration court, the intent is to remove them from this country to their country of origin, and they have numbers of ways to defend themselves. Under our immigration law, hopefully we're able to get the person bonded out so they can go to one of our local courts, or if I happen to be representing somebody in, let's say, Florida or Texas or Kentucky, California, you know, in their local court, and hopefully be able to keep them here based on, you know, certain legal abilities under our Immigration and Nationality Act, and then the various case law that comes up over the years. Incredibly complicated. Unfortunately, no great equalizer. We don't have juries.
Right.
So, so your background, there's a criminal component, criminal defense work as well.
I do criminal defense work, and the majority of the people that I represent happen to be non-citizens because of the really complicated interwoven consequences, immigration consequences of a criminal case. But yes, I started back in the early 2000s doing criminal defense work. You and I have crossed paths a lot in the Jefferson County Criminal Courthouse. And the fact that I'm bilingual sort of led me into representing lots of Hispanics. And immigration law is something that people had a lot of interest in, contacted me. At times I didn't know it from Ken's house, Kirby's house cat, or Ken's dog for that matter, or Elvis, which was a nice dog on our earlier show. And just through self-study, joining national organizations, going to conferences, immigration has become the primary focus of what I do. But yes, I've been in the criminal courthouse probably every week for the last 2 months, and still we'll probably see you down there again.
Well, let's talk a little bit, if we can, for those who may be immigrants in the country that are undocumented. I've heard this over the years in terms of, I have a situation, I'm the victim of a crime in the city.
Okay.
But there's fear to call the police because they're afraid of repercussions regarding their residency. Talk about that a little bit, if you will.
And that is a valid fear historically. Fortunately, the city of Birmingham, as well as Jefferson County, both in the Bessemer Division and in the Birmingham Division, are very citizenship blind.
Okay. And by that you mean?
Meaning, you have the scales of justice. Lady Justice supposedly wears a blindfold because justice sees no color, justice sees no class, justice should see no nationality. However, historically that hasn't always been the case. So if someone is a victim of a crime, well, they're afraid if they go to the police are going to turn them over to the authorities, and by nature of them seeking justice, they find injustice. If someone is a victim of a crime, they should definitely go to law enforcement. They should also call an immigration lawyer.
Okay.
Depending on the type of crime that they could be a victim of, their willingness to cooperate in the prosecution of that crime. Under limited circumstances, there could be immigration benefits available to them.